Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to August 2024 SBIF Rollout webinar. We are excited to have you here to talk about the SBIF areas that will be open this month and provide you with more information about what the program has to offer. We will get started momentarily. Okay, hello, everyone. My name is Latanya Jones. I am the Deputy Director of the SBIF program at Summer Corps. Just a few housekeeping notes. Everyone attending today will receive a copy of the presentation via email. If you would like to rewatch the presentation, the recorded webinar can be found on DPD's webpage. Please note that if you have any questions during the presentation, there is a Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen, and someone behind the scenes will be responding throughout the webinar, or they'll be answered during the Q&A section of this presentation. With that, I would like to turn it over to Gabadelle Miranda with DPD for a brief introduction. Gabadelle.
Thank you, Latanya. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us. My name is Gabadelle Miranda, and I am a coordinator of economic development here at the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development, otherwise known as DPD. A representative from the SBIF Administrators program, so representative of Summer Corps will be making our presentation today, and I just wanted to welcome you for this presentation. The Small Business Improvement Fund, otherwise known as SBIF, provides grants to small businesses and property owners to make needed improvements to their properties. Over the last few years, we have made a lot of exciting changes to the SBIF program that includes increasing the size of grants and making new funding available to different areas of the city. Technical assistance is a key part of the SBIF program. When you submit your application, you will be assigned a program manager at Summer Corps, and that person is there to help you through the SBIF process. If you have any questions about the process or run into issues that may delay your project, you can call and contact your Summer Corps project manager to let them know. They can answer your questions and help you problem solve. Your local delegate agency is also another great resource. We will have a list of your local Chamber of Commerce or community development corporations in your area. Sylvia will be listing them later in the presentation. Just like Summer Corps project managers, they are also there to help you, so feel free to contact them as well. They often help with the SBIF application itself and with things like introductions to local lenders and guiding you through the process of city permits and licensing as well. We are here to support you in your application because we want to see your business and your neighborhood thrive and flourish. With that, I'm happy to introduce Sylvia Orozco from SBIF, who is the SBIF director at Summer Corps.
Thank you very much, Gabadelle, and thank you all for joining us today. As she mentioned, my name is Sylvia Orozco. I'm the director of the Small Business Improvement Fund program. For nearly 19 years now, I've assisted hundreds of existing businesses, landlords, and startups. Summer Corps is a not-for-profit organization. We administer the SBIF program, the NOF program, and we also are a SBA lender that offers SBA loans. Now in its 25th year, SBIF is one of the longest running and most successful City of Chicago programs. We've helped retain and expand businesses in nearly every neighborhood. We've dispersed over $118 million in grants to over 1,900 businesses. But please be advised that this is a non-residential program. The grant cannot be used for capital or operating expenses. It is specifically for infrastructure repairs. Again, thank you for joining us today. We'll now begin the presentation. Today, we will go over what is SBIF, what is our program mission, and grant parameters, as well as the project timeline. Getting started. Is your business or property in a SBIF district? Which SBIF districts are open or on deck? What are the SBIF program rules? How do you apply? And what resources are available to help? We will also have the list of August TIF openings as well as a sample project. SBIF facts will be provided, and we will have an additional question and answer session at the end. What is SBIF? Program mission. Launched in 1999, the City of Chicago's Small Business Improvement Fund promotes economic development by providing small businesses and landlords with reimbursement grants for permanent building improvement costs. Residential projects are not eligible. SBIF grants use local tax increment financing known as TIF revenue to reimburse grantees for the pre-approved repair or rehab of their business facilities or adjacent land acquisition. Summer Corps is a program administrator contracted by the Chicago's Department of Planning and Development. What is SBIF? Here are the grant parameters that we will go over, starting with the applicant type. The property must be in a TIF district where the SBIF funds are available and is authorized to accept applications. Landlords of commercial or industrial properties are eligible applicants, as well as owners and operators of commercial or industrial businesses that own their property. Tenants with prior written approval from property owners and also startups may apply with a business plan. A current Chicago business license is required prior to final disbursements. Eligibility. Commercial or industrial landlords with cumulative net worth less than $9 million qualify for the program, and $500,000 in liquid assets is the max per individual to be deemed eligible. Commercial tenants or owner occupied on average must have less than $9 million gross sales per year. Industrial tenants or owners that are owner occupied must have 200 or fewer full-time employees. All owner occupied properties are subject to both tenants and landlord requirements. $250,000 is the maximum that an applicant can receive per an industrial property. $150,000 is the maximum per a commercial property that's occupied by a single owner or tenant. $250,000 is the max per commercial property occupied by multiple owners or tenants, with $75,000 being the maximum assistance that can be provided per each individual applicant. SBIF applications and SBIF grants are non-transferable between applicants and/or properties. Applicants who wish to apply for SBIF funds for more than one property must submit separate applications for each property. Applicants may receive one or more grants up to their maximum program assistance. Once this maximum is reached, the applicants will need to wait 3 years to reapply. So for commercial tenants and/or owners, if your sales or net worth fall between $0 to $3 million, you'd qualify for 90% reimbursement of eligible cost. With sales or net worth between 3 to 6 million, you would qualify for 60% of eligible cost, and net worth or sales between 6 to 9 million, you'd qualify for 30% of eligible cost of reimbursement. All industrial projects are eligible for 50% reimbursement of eligible cost. Here we have an example, a grant calculation example. Let's say that Grace submits an application for a SBIF grant in an open district with a total eligible project cost at $100,000. She's proposing to make permanent building improvements to her existing retail shop for which she is the tenant. Grace has been in business for 5 years. Over the last 3 years, her gross sales averaged $1.5 million. Here we have the breakdown of eligible costs as follows. Total eligible project costs are at $100,000. As a commercial tenant applicant with gross sales under 3 million, she qualifies for 90% reimbursement. The city's responsibility at 90% is $90,000, and the applicant's responsibility at 10% is $10,000. Keeping in mind that this is a grant in the form of reimbursement, so the applicant should be prepared to fully finance the project. The SBIF program is a reimbursement grant, so the participant should be prepared with financing to support the cost of the permanent building improvements. Applicants are encouraged to contact their business lender or reach out to one of the lenders listed on the Summer Corps' website in a timely manner. Grantees may choose to complete their project in phases rather than covering 100% of the project cost up front. To participate, the grantees must receive an approval for the full scope of work and the phase work schedule. Construction timing will be based on necessity and contractors' recommendations. Receiving phase disbursements will be based on the progress of work. Here we have an example of phases. Let's say that an applicant is approved for the scope of work that includes a new roof, an HVAC system, and also facade renovations. With a total contract price of $180,000, the applicant qualifies for 90% reimbursement with a maximum of $150,000. So for phase one, it's recommended that the roofing project be completed first. There's a contract price of $60,000. So this would be the responsibility of the applicant upfront to provide $60,000, get the roofing work done at a 90% rebate. They will then receive a grant of $54,000. That $54,000 can then be used for the HVAC system, which is costing them $40,000. So once they pay that, they can get the grant of $36,000 and then move on to the facade renovations and so forth. So as a disbursement is made, the remaining funds are held until the remaining projects are complete. Here we explain a little bit about the project timeline. In stage one, this is the applicant's eligibility review phase. The applications are completed within this time and the applicants prove site control. They're granted up to 20 days to submit the application materials. If deemed eligible, they will be moved in stage two. This is the project eligibility review. They're granted up to 120 days to submit any plans, bids, and specifications that are obtained, as well as cure any debts. Stage three is the project construction phase. Once approved by DPD, the applicants receive a conditional commitment letter and construction can begin. Concurrently, the proof of permits or permit application must be submitted within 120 days following the date of the commitment letter. The stage three is granted. It is given up to 10 months to meet these requirements as well as complete the construction. Proof of financing is required. The applicants must prove that they have at least 50% of the full contract price. 120 days following the date of the commitment letter is when this proof of financing is also due. The reimbursement phase. This is where the applicants are required to submit their payment documentation. This should include sworn statements, invoices, canceled checks, and final waivers of lien. These are sent to Summer Corps for review after a final site visit is conducted and the processing of the documentation is provided to the City of Chicago. It usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks for that reimbursement to be available. Unless DPD has granted an extension, the applicants who do not complete each stage within the required phase time limits will be disqualified and removed from the program. Is your business or property in a SBIF district? In order to determine whether it falls in an eligible TIP district, you can visit our website at summercore.com/SBIF to see if your property is in a SBIF district. Once you click on the page here, the locator tool, that is going to take you to this screen here. That is where you will then enter the address to the property that you are seeking to determine eligibility for. Now, once you enter that address, it will give you detailed information specifically for that property. If it is in a TIP district, it will give you the name of the TIP district, the month and year of when the district is scheduled to open to accept applications, and also provides information on the delegate agencies. These agencies are designed to assist you with the SBIF process as well. Which SBIF districts are open or on deck? Eligible SBIF districts in Chicago span neighborhoods on the north, south, and west sides. Each month marks a new 30-day period in which the SBIF districts with available funds open for applications. Notice of district openings are provided to relevant aldermen, posted on the DPD and Summer Corps' websites, and included in the SBIF grant. You can visit our website for the most up-to-date list of open and on-deck districts. Here we have just an example of our new website launch that includes the detailed information about open and on-deck districts. What are the SBIF program rules? Ineligible business types. It's not comprehensive. If you have any questions or are unclear whether or not your business qualifies, you can always reach out directly to us. We'll advise further. Chains and franchise businesses, places of worship, smoke shops, private clubs, startup bars and taverns, liquor stores. These are just a few of the businesses that do not qualify for SBIF. Eligible improvement cost. Again, this list is not comprehensive. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Summer Corps or also review the full program rules for more information. We cover items such as roofing and facade, components of signs and awnings, which are permanently affixed to the building, any alterations or structures that are needed for ADA compliance, including railings or ramps, and also ADA compliance restrooms and entryways. HVAC and other mechanical systems, plumbing and electrical work, certain project-related architectural and construction management fees that are related to the SBIF-approved projects. Permanent interior renovations, including fixtures, and the purchase of adjacent land parcels for purpose of expansion or parking. Ineligible improvement cost. We do not cover any new construction, whether it's an addition or expansion or any ground up construction, new construction. Standalone minor repairs or cosmetic improvements are not covered. If they are part of a larger gut renovation, then we can definitely cover those items. Equipment-related expenses such as appliances, computers, and office furniture do not qualify for SBIF reimbursement. Any planters that are surrounded or affixed to buildings, outdoor dining or drinking areas, including roof decks, beer gardens, outdoor patios, balconies, awnings, porches, and decks. Fencing, including any pergolas, trellises, arbors, privacy screens, and similar structures, do not qualify for reimbursement. Any parking lot construction or repairs, landscaping, and work on interior of residential units do not qualify for reimbursement. We do have design requirements. The applicants for commercial properties that are seeking a grant of $25,000 or greater are required to make at least one exterior improvement using at least 10% of the maximum grant amount. To receive the project approval from DPD, the improvements must conform to DPD's design guidelines. The applicants are strongly encouraged to consult with Summer Corps and design professionals on design requirements and guidelines before drawing up plans for work. Key exterior design guidelines reviewed during the approval stage include preserving or recreating the original design and window openings when possible. Incorporating permanent signage to clearly identify the business, adequate lighting, especially near entrances to welcome customers, avoiding window clutter. The windows should let in natural light and attract passerbys to the business. Please refer to the Department of Buildings guidelines for on-premises window signs for more information. Other forms of security are preferred, but if necessary, only interior mounted security gates that are integrated into the storefront design will be reimbursed. Applicant compliance. Checks will be performed on all applicants during the approval stage to ensure that they are compliant with child support laws and not indebted to the city. Any scofflaw debt must be cured to participate in SBIF. Applicants can cure the debt via a city payment plan. Applicants using a payment plan must be in compliance with that to receive any SBIF reimbursement funds. All applicants must be current on property taxes to receive a conditional commitment letter for funding or reimbursement for completed work. Each applicant must sign an economic disclosure affidavit. Grantees must sign an affidavit certifying that they will not relocate out of the TIF district or sell the business or property within a 3-year period following disbursement of funds. To be reimbursed, the landlord applicants must have an executed lease with a qualified tenant, and that tenant must be occupying and actively operating their business or not-for-profit out of the lease space. How do you apply? You can visit our website to complete the SBIF application within the open acceptance period. Once you get to our website, you'll see the screen similar to the one you're looking at now. Please allow 2 business days for Summer Corps to confirm the receipt of your application via an email response. If you do not receive an email confirmation, please call our main line at 312-360-3300 or send an email to spiff@summercorps.com. The applicants are responsible for making sure submissions are received within the open acceptance period. Applications received after 5 p.m. on the last day of the acceptance period will not be eligible. What resources are available to help? These resources are available on our website. They include the City of Chicago's website. They include the SBIF locator tool, our full program rules, a link to the Chicago's licensed contractors, a list of SBIF lenders, the design guidelines. We have a new page on our website, which includes information for current applicants. So resources are available for you if you have a current application, and also the link to the City of Chicago's Department of Buildings. You can visit our website for resources to help support your SBIF project, and you can also connect with your local delegate agency for assistance in filling out your application. So the list of lenders that is provided here are lenders that have worked with SBIF recipients in the past. They are familiar with the SBIF program, and they also are able to basically provide the bridge financing for you to get the SBIF work done. We can actually sign a bank assignment where the proceeds of the grant go directly to the lender to pay off a portion of your loan, and the applicant will be responsible for paying off the remainder of the loan. Here we have the list of delegate agencies for each TIF district that is opening for this month of August. Get to know your local delegate agency. They are assigned to assist you with this SBIF process, so please feel free to reach out. So for August, these are the districts that are currently open to accept applications. The applications will be accepted through August 30th at 5 p.m. So please be sure to get your application in as soon as possible. The current districts that are open are 43rd and Cottage Grove, Bronzeville, Fullerton, Milwaukee, Midwest, and River West. We do have some critical information for applicants in the River West TIF district. It is set to expire on December 31st of next year, 2025. When the TIF expires, the SBIF funds will be liquidated and the River West TIF district will no longer exist. All approved projects in the River West district must be fully completed by November 15th, 2025 to allow time for processing prior to expiration. Here we have a sample project out in Fullerton and Milwaukee TIF district. This is Pollen Inc. doing business as Rooted. They are located at 2918 North Milwaukee Avenue. Here we have a before and picture of their facade renovation. Their work included some masonry repairs at the facade. They furnished and installed a new storefront framing system along with the glass and new doors. They constructed an interior wall between the storefront and entryway on the eastern elevation. They also removed and replaced the existing roofing system and furnished and installed accent lighting for the facade and new power outlets. Now we'll go over these SBIF facts. What additional documents should you have on hand to submit along with the SBIF application? While it's not required when submitting the initial application form, please note that these items are required to complete the SBIF application process. The required documents vary depending on the applicant type. For example, if you are a business, we will ask you for business tax returns. If you are a landlord, we'd ask you for a copy of your tenant's leases. So some of these items will be requested on your behalf, and some of these items we have templates for, so we'll provide those for you. Are startups or new businesses eligible? Yes, most startups can apply. Startup applicants will need to supply a detailed business plan and projections of the business's income and expenses for its first 36 months of operation as part of their application materials. The City of Chicago reserves the right to impose additional conditions for funding in connection with the startup business applications. If you've only been in business for 1 to 2 years, SummerCore requires tax returns and a projection of gross sales to equal 3 years of data. Am I eligible if I live outside of Chicago? The important consideration is where you have your business or your property. To participate in SBIF, your property must be in the City of Chicago, as the funding source comes from the City of Chicago property taxes. If your business or property is in another area, please call that city's planning, economic development, or community development department to see what other programs may be available to assist small businesses. What if my building has both business and residential spaces? This program is for business use, but there are mixed use exceptions. Many envelope projects such as roofing, facade improvements, and tuck pointing can be eligible. Can SBIF be used with other City of Chicago grant programs? The answer is no. SBIF cannot be used at the same time as other financial assistance programs, like the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund or the Chicago Recovery Plan grants, on the same project covering the same work. However, you may apply for multiple grants at the same time and select the best fit for your project. provided that you stay within the grant timeline requirements. Will there be enough SBIF funds for all applicants? Each STIF district that has a SBIF program authorized in it has limited funds reserved for the program. If demand for the SBIF funds is greater than the available funding supply, then a lottery will be conducted to determine the order in which each grant application may be accommodated. If any surplus funds become available, they will be allocated to waitlisted applicants. Is there SBIF funding available in my district? Every SBIF area has its own budget that the city refills if it has TIF funds available and if there is a demonstrated need for grant money. We also maintain an interested parties list for funds, which you can also send an email to spiff@summercorps.com to join. When more funding becomes available or the city allocates more funds, we will let you know. The interested parties list helps the city of Chicago gauge demand for additional funding. What if I'm in a TIF and it is not a SBIF? The tax increment financing, known as TIF, is the mechanism that funds the Small Business Improvement Fund. If you are in a TIF district and it does not have a SBIF, please contact your alderman. Here we have contact information for the SBIF team, as well as the director on the City of Chicago side from the Planning and Development Department, Nora Curry. We have two SBIF websites. The Google Translate is available on the City of Chicago sites. These resources are available in other languages. A copy of the presentation and a link to a video will be emailed to all attendees. Again, thank you for joining us today. We will now start the question and answer session.
Okay, thank you so much, Sylvia. So just as a reminder, if you have any questions that you would like to be answered at this time, please include that within the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. So before we get into the additional questions, I just wanted to just cover a few things. Can you talk about the most common challenges that applicants face within this program?
Sure. So since this is a grant in the form of reimbursement, the biggest challenge is finding the upfront financing. So we want you to get started with that as soon as possible. We don't want you to get discouraged at this moment if you do not have the financial resources available to you yet. There still is time to work on that, but we do want you to get started with that as soon as possible. I always suggest that you start off with your lender since you've already established a relationship with them. And you can also reach out to some of the lenders that are listed on our website who are familiar with the process. One of the other challenges is finding good contractors and also architects. So you want to do your research, you sort of get a sense of how communicative they are, their knowledge of what it is that they do, so don't feel like you have to be tied to any of these contractors. It's a little weary when they reach out directly to you looking for business, but ultimately it's your decision on who you want to use as long as they're licensed by the City of Chicago and also have a certificate of insurance. So just beware that there are many scammers out there, so just keep that in mind.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I did notice that we received a lot of questions in regards to if SBIF would cover any work that's already been completed.
Unfortunately not. You do have to get approval before getting started with any of the work. Otherwise, it will not be eligible for reimbursement.
Okay, another question. If the landlord is also the business owner, what type of applicant type would they be?
It would be both business and property owner. So they would then check off both small business and property owner / landlord on the application.
Okay, and again, if they have like any questions about the type of applicant the type of applicant that they are, then they can just reach out to us and we can confirm that information for them.
Correct. And just so that, everyone is aware, some people own their business and properties, some people only lease their places of business. However, you do not have the option to decide you want to apply as only a tenant or only a landlord. We have to take into consideration both aspects of things. So if you own both, then we'd process the application as both business and property owner. So there's requirements to be met on both ends.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I know you listed a lot of different types of businesses that would not be eligible with this program. And someone was asking the question if a dispensary would be eligible for consideration through this program.
We would consider it. This would have to be something that the Department of Planning and Development has final discretion on. So I would advise for you to submit an application and we'll advise further on eligibility.
Okay, thank you. So we have some additional questions in regards to how does the business assignment work in regards to approval projects? How would an applicant be able to utilize this option when it comes to obtaining financing?
Okay, so with the bank assignment, so you would be in communication with the lender and they can provide the information on this template that we provide to you. This is something that the applicant and Summer Corps will sign off on. So a lot of the times before they give you the final approval on things, they want the bank assignment to be executed and filed. So we can talk a little bit further about that. If there are lenders that are not familiar with the program, we'd be more than happy to walk them through the process.
Okay, thank you. So you did mention that we cannot, you cannot use SBIF funds along with any other city grant funding. How would that work if someone also has state funding as well?
The state funding does not have an impact on the SBIF grant, so that would not be a concern. However, if there's other funding that they're either tied to, that they have been approved for, or that was received within the last 3 years, it will be deducted dollar for dollar from what you would qualify for SBIF.
Okay, so ultimately they just have to make sure that there's no overlap in the city funding to make sure that it doesn't interfere with what they're trying to obtain with SBIF.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Trying to see. Someone asked the question if they can use the program to do renovations to a commercial space that they have for rent. I'm not sure if this is currently vacant or not, but I guess they're just trying to figure out if this would be eligible for them to apply.
So it sounds like it would be eligible. The biggest, thing to keep in mind with this, we can cover vacant buildings, but they do have to be leased and occupied by a SBIF eligible business. So we refer to as SBIF eligible. So if one of the business types, that are ineligible, are applicable to you and or the landlords who are looking to lease. So if we cannot accept an application for a church, if you're applying as a landlord, your tenant cannot be a church and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Someone asked the question, what happens if you overestimate the cost of the project when applying for the grant?
Nothing happens. What we do on our end is we basically go with that number that you give us an estimate to. We also reserve a contingency for cost overruns only. So it's best to overestimate and not underestimate, because if we have to do a lottery in a specific area, you might be tied to that lower estimate. So it may be in your best interest to estimate on the higher end if you're not sure.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Someone is asking that once they submit their application, would they be able to start work on their project?
No, there is a process that we have to go through. After the 30-day acceptance period, first we need to determine whether or not a lottery needs to be conducted. If so, the applicants will be notified via email. They will be invited to the lottery. They do not have to attend. They will still be notified of where their application stands either way. After that, if we're able to move forward with the application, they do have to complete the full application, which they're granted 20 days to do so. Then there's a process where we'd have to review their contractor's documentations and then present the project to the City of Chicago for approval. So there's a process for all of this. We try to move as quickly as we can, basically to be at your pace, but you do have to at least submit the paperwork within the deadlines that are provided to you.
Okay, thank you. Another question. This person has 3 different businesses and they were wondering if they would need to complete 3 different applications or is only one allowed for consideration?
So it all depends on where these businesses are operating out of. So we've had scenarios where there's 3 businesses operating out of one property. If that is the case, we do want 3 separate applications, even if they are operating within that same building. If they are basically, let's say you have one business that is currently operating on one block, and across the street, you have your second business, 2 blocks down, you have your third business. We do still want separate applications for those. If they're operating out of one building, we'll consider it as one application, which would max out based off of whether it's a single or a multi-tenant building. And we will need application materials for each business.
Okay, thank you. So there's another question. This person is looking to do structural related improvements to their business space, but they also received the Chicago Green Infrastructure Grant for a rooftop garden. Would that interfere with them applying for SBIF for the infrastructure part outside of the rooftop improvements? Or would they be, or would that hinder them for applying for SBIF since they are obtaining a grant from the city?
Well, if it is a city grant, it will be deducted dollar for dollar from what they'd qualify for SBIF. And they would also have to be completely separate programs. Like we can't cover the deck if this other grant program is already covering the deck. So let's say, for example, the property qualifies for $150,000 and they're getting a $50,000 grant for the deck. We don't cover the decks. So what happens with that is your SBIF eligibility will then be reduced by $50,000. So they would only qualify for $100,000 in renovations for work that are not related to the deck.
Okay, thank you. Someone is asking if they should obtain or should they have financing in place before they apply? And do they also have to have their architect and contractor set up before submitting an application as well?
You do not have to have any of those things already in line before you submit your application. The most important thing is that you make sure your 3-page application is submitted within the open acceptance period in order to be considered for that. But it is suggested that you get started as soon as possible with obtaining financing and also, looking for architects and contractors.
Okay. Next question. Can a business have multiple locations and still be eligible if one location is within the TIF area?
Yes, you can have multiple locations. We do take into consideration how many locations you have. So at a certain point, it may be considered a chain and thus made ineligible, but we can talk a little bit further, if needed.
Okay, and the last question, it appears that this person has previously applied and was placed on the lottery list, and they're looking to see if they would be eligible to reapply.
If you're already on the wait list, then there is no need to apply. Very rarely does it happen where we're still working through the wait list and we're reopening the district. So you can always reach out to us directly. We'll let you know exactly what the status of your application is. But if you're currently on the wait list, you do not have to reapply for that same property. But it's best to reach out to us so that we can advise further.
Okay, and one last question. I guess it's a follow-up based on the bank assignment. They were wondering who should the lender contact to learn more about the bank assignment process.
Okay, each application that we receive are assigned to project coordinators. So you will have one person who you communicate with throughout the entire process. So that would be the person that you would discuss basically everything that concerns the project. If you have any questions, issues, if things change, if your plan changes, contractor changes, if there's unforeseen work that, was not previously approved, you want to make sure that you communicate directly with your project coordinator for basically everything, because if there's changes, we want to revise accordingly and we want to make note of certain things. We do not want you to jeopardize your grant.
Okay. I believe that is all the questions that I see here. If you have like any in-depth questions in regards to your application specifically or the business type or anything SBIF related, you can definitely always email us at spiff@summercore.com, and we can definitely assist you with any questions that you may have. Again, a copy of this presentation will be sent over to you via email, and you can also see the presentation on DPD's webpage. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you all. Have a great day.